Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. We will see what if Naruto was the son of Artemis and Hera, Naruto the prince of Olympus. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. Chapter 1, Mount Olympus. Chatters and banters rang throughout the room as the Olympian gods and goddesses tried to defuse the fight between Zeus and Poseidon from starting a war while the minor gods cower and hide from the increasing tension. No, I'm warning you Poseidon, if you don't give back my lightning bolt to me soon, I will show you why I am hailed as the king of gods. An enraged Zeus glared hatefully at the god of sea. How many times do I have to tell you that I don't have your bolt? What part of it you don't understand? If I really wanted your toy I would have taken it long time ago, you fool. An equally raged Poseidon said while gripping on his trident, ready to strike at the king of Olympus. Why you, father? Please stop this. The goddess of wisdom finally intervened before anything bad happened that would definitely lead to absolute disaster. Nothing will come out good if we fight. Ahem, I'm here you know, owl head. Shut it warmonger. If you don't have anything good to say dump yourself somewhere, you good for nothing. Hey, enough. I have decided if my lightning bolt shall not return to me by the end of the month, there will be war. The king of gods firmly said as he looked at Poseidon chillingly. Suddenly a black portal appears on the room and a figure of a man in a white robe and a hyena mask-like face came out. The menacing aura could be felt by all gods. They narrow their eyes at the unknown being nothing more so of Athena as she tried to analyze the situation but ready to attack if situation calls. The vibes from this masked man was more intimidating than Hades. The man glided in front of Zeus as he bowed lightly to the king of gods, showing a tidbit of respect, which helped to ease the tension and calm the other gods, especially Ares, and refrain from attacking. Forgive my intrusion Zeus, king of gods, this will be brief. I am Shinagami of Shinto faction. T.S. brought surprise looks from all the gods of what could be the reason the death god visit them personally. Although they don't have any bad history against Shinto, they are not in friendly terms either. You may be all wondering why someone a being like me doing here, but before I tell you I brought you someone that will help you in the future. The Shinagami snapped his fingers. A young adult appeared in the center. He was clad in night pajamas as he was obviously taken from his home when he was asleep. A smile adorned on his cute whiskered face, mumbling something while scratching his butt. The gods chuckles lowly at the show except for Artemis, due to very obvious reason. That's utterly disgusting. Why did you bring a mortal boy, Shinagami? A wicked smile crept on Shinagami's face and sent shivers to Artemis' spine. That milady, because this young man will play a pivotal role to the upcoming war, and I am not talking about the war between your king and the god of seas. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. Anyway, it will be all your decision if you want him to be part of it or you can send him back to my realm. The Shinagami flick the air as the portal opens and ready to leave. As a token of my goodwill, take this. Several small orbs materialized in front of Zeus as it rested in his lap. What are these orbs supposed to be? Take that as your reference and source of entertain me. As I noticed you all are seemed tense. Have a break once in a while. Oh, by the way, be sure to let him know this before you look inside the orb, and whatever you will witness today will never happen in this world's future, as it only happened in alternate world, the death god said as he vanished through the portal. The gods stayed silent for several minutes until Apollo broke the ice. I think we should wake the kid Pops. The rest of the gods nodded in agreement. You are right. Go Artemis, wake him up. Huh, why is it me? Apollo did. Zeus gave her daughter the look as she groans and went to the young man while giving an evil look to his twin brother. The said god of sun laughing nervously, trying to avoid the look his sister giving him. Hey boy, wake up, nudging the boy with her feet. Let me rest, Sakura-chan. I'm still tired, don't tell me you want more of, moaned Naruto. Artemis never want to end his sentence, slugged Naruto in the face as he slammed through the massive door. Apollo inged at the sight. Ooh my, that looks nasty. I'm so dead. Damn me and my big mouth. Note to self. Do not tease sis, whispered to himself. What the hell, Sakura-chan? That hurts. You know, I was just kidding. Naruto's eyes widened looking at the beauty in front of him. Whoa, beautiful, this game tick marks from the moon. Goddess and chuckles from Hermes, Apollo, Aphrodite and surprisingly Athena. What did you say, mortal? Artemis hissed in annoyance as Naruto finally snapped out of his trance as he saw a fist coming to his face. He sidestepped and ready to take his kunai to Defa. ND himself when he realized he was not in his home. He slowly turned his body and his eyes nearly bugged out of their sockets at what he saw. Before him the Olympian gods and goddesses were looking at him like he was an ant. Well, at his own perspective since he was small compared to the gargantuan beings seated on their thrones. He gulped hardly trying to come up with words but nothing came out. Okay, calm down, just calm yourself. But fuck it, where the hell am I? Am I dreaming or what? Naruto nervously thought while looking at the giants in front of him. Finally his voice found his way into his mouth, greeted in awkward way. Hi, dunno what supposed to say, must be good to be big nay. Oh great, I feel like an idiot for saying that. Damn, Kurama help here, but before he continue his rant in his mind. Zeus finally speaks, visibly amused to the boy. Be at ease young man, we are not going to hurt you. Well, she did. Giving Zeus a blank look while pointing at Artemis. The goddess ONLY scoffed at him like his existence disgusted her to no end. What you want more? Naruto shook his head rapidly as he don't want to be the receiving end of that nasty sucker punch again. The hell with her problem. He muttered to himself. The Queen of Olympus finally had enough of the insanity of the situation and speak for the first time since the whole ordeal started. You go back to your seat, Artemis, leave the kid alone. I don't want to see more fights, am I clear? The goddess reluctantly agreed and went back to her throne. As for you Uzumaki Naruto, as knucklehead as he is, Naruto cut in. You know me. Wait, who are you people and where the hell am I? But before Hera could answer, Zeus beat her to it. We are gods of this world. I am Zeus, the god of thunder and sky and ruler of the gods. The death god of your world brought you here for what reason is we don't know. He only gave us your name, he said, keeping the little info the Shinagami told them. Shinagami-sama brought me here. Okay, so I'm no longer in Konaha. Fucking great. Hey Kurama, you seeing this? Kurama, Naruto murmured while marveling the place, also curious why his partner was silent about this. Not to disrespect court or anything Zeus-sama, but can you bring me back to my world? I don't have any idea why would Shinagami-sama send me here, but you know I have duties back in my place and my bachan mostly would be worried if I go missing, he said pleadingly. You don't have to worry about that, young man. We can send you back but not until we see what's in this orb, Zeus reassuringly said to Naruto. He can't help but feel attached to the boy. It seems something connecting between them. This feeling also shares with Hera, as her maternal instinct kicking in every time she look at Naruto. So I am stuck here till we know what those black marbles are for. Yes, I am afraid so, Naruto. Fine, let's get this over with, Naruto pouted cutely. This made Aphrodite all giddy at his reaction. The king and queen smiled at this, though they don't understand why they feel concern about the young man. Hera materialized a comfy armchair beside Naruto and some fruits. Go have a sit, Naruto, so we can start this now, Hera gently said to the boy and nod to Zeus to do what he has to do, and the god lift an orb and smash it with his powerful hands. The shards of the orb sprinkles throughout the room and massive monitor appears in the air. On the screen it says, "The Prince of Olympus." Now that says a lot, don't you think, Pops? Zeus could only watched in silence, looking stern while inside fidgeting by the looks his wife giving him. Quote, ... alternate world means other me, he only said, trying to calm his heart since his wife didn't stop staring at him. Mount Olympus, the central of godly world, hovering above the current heart of Western civilization. New York City. This was not just the place where gods and goddesses gathered to have their yearly meeting every winter solstice. The mountain was also called Paradise, with golden buildings and happy people. Ares snorted at the description, not in the slightest degree on the happy people part. This is friggin' awesome. Can't wait to slap this on Sasuke Tem's face. Naru, to thought excitedly said while most of the gods silently disagree at how they describe Olympus. Still, Naruto couldn't believe his luck. He was in different world, in a place where gods reside in. Top that, Sasuke. Located at the top of it was a large city containing the palaces for the Olympian gods, goddesses, and residences for many minor gods and other creatures of Greek mythology. But the greatest structure of MT, Olympus, was the throne room, the hall of the gods. It is the place where the gods have their summer and winter solstice meetings. High above, the blue ceiling could be seen glittering with constellations. The thrones of the gods stand in AU around the hearth, starting with Zeus and Poseidon's thrones, as they are the most powerful Greek gods. From Zeus and Poseidon's thrones, the goddesses sit on the left side of the hearth and the other gods sit on the right side, and Hestia's hearth is in the center of the hall. Naruto turned his sight at the center of the hall and saw Hestia gently smiled warmly at him. This surprised Naruto as he smiled back and waved his hand slightly at her. As this wasn't winter solstice, there were no gods or goddesses occupied the throne room. Unless situation call for an emergency meeting, all of the Olympians were all over the world minding their own businesses or taking care of what they represent for. However, there were two D and goddess currently in the throne room, sitting on their respective thrones with a dark atmosphere surrounding them. The god was tall, imposing, and very muscular, with long black shoulder-length hair with a gray and black neatly trimmed beard. He had brilliant electrically blue eyes with a serious and proud, but very handsome face. His attire was a dark blue pinstriped suit. This was Zeus, the Greek god of honor, justice, lightning, rain in the skies. He is the king of Olympus, the youngest son of the titans Kronos and Rhea, and the husband of the goddess Hera. Speaking of his wife, Hera was sitting next to him with a face void of any emotion. Hera is the most beautiful daughter of Kronos and Rhea, with long licorice black hair, a face of regal and unapproachable beauty like that of a supermodel on a fashion runway, and large, soft brown eyes that one could get lost in. Naruto looked at the Queen of Olympus and can't help but admire her, not in perverse way but something akin to familial admiration. When his eyes connected to Hera, he saw sadness and disappointment. He don't know why, but he wants to comfort her and beat the hell out of Zeus, god or not. Then something struck him. Wait, pause a moment. Did I hear it right? You two are siblings yet married. Pardon for the language, but isn't that fuck up? The son and daughter of Rhea and Kronos gasped in shock, while Poseidon a bellowed laugh. Bwahahahahaha. I like this kid, can we keep him? Demeter and Hestia felt a little embarrassed for their younger brother and sister and looked away. The former though felt GTLE upset when she remembers the damnable Hades and her dear daughter. In Underworld, why'd I suddenly feel like I'm so blessed to be here? Hades said while torturing some unfortunate souls. Back in Olympus, did I say something wrong? Naruto, hoping he won't anger the king of gods. He still want to be Hokage for Kami's sake. This boy has balls of steel, never mind father, but to say that in front of Hera. Oh, Hermes chuckled. Hera sighed and explained, you see, we gods are not bound to human morals, and it's not also frowned upon by us. Briefly flashing a smile towards Yuto, but they could see blush on her beautiful face. Oh, I see, thanks, I guess. She is the goddess of familial love, marriage, motherhood, women, and also the queen of Olympus. The tension between them was thick, as if one could cut through it with a knife. The king and queen of Olympus didn't speak any words to each other for a whole week now, all because the horrible event that happened last Sunday. Talia Grace, the demigod daughter of Zeus, was killed by the monsters sent by Hades right in front of Camp Half-Blood, and later turned into a tree with magic to protect the camp from all monsters by her father. Hera didn't feel happy, not in the slightest. It was bad enough that Zeus cheated on her again. Her, the goddess of marriage for a mere mortal woman, but he also turned his daughter her into a tree to keep her away from Hades after her death. Zeus, feeling guilty about it, looked at Hera and was about to say something discreetly when the goddess stopped him. I know what you're going to say. You've said it so many times that I already lost count. Let's just go back and watch this, all right? Hera said in a cold tone, not wanting to hear any more of Zeus' excuses, who only have to decently turn his attention back to the monitor. Unknown to them, this went unnoticed by the gods and their so-called guest, and couldn't help but feel sorry for the goddess of marriage. Even Artemis, who is for being not in good terms with Hera, sympathized with her. I think Pops went overboard this time. I have never seen that kind of reaction from Hera before, have you? Apollo whispered to his half-brother Hermes, who only shook his head and sighed for the incoming drama. She loves her husband with all her heart, but he could never keep it in his pant and stay loyal to her, like how she always do to him. Zeus winced at that. That stung like a beach, wishing the movie go fast forward. They went through so much thing together and Hera, he said with a low tone. Don't. Save it. She looked away. Her face still remained the same. After so many millenniums experienced her husband cheated on her for so many times, she had come to get used to it physically. But unlike her son, Hephaestus, who would more than happy to be divorced with his unfaithful wife. More than anything, the god of blacksmith butted in. Aphrodite only ignore his comment, not caring whatever his husband says with regards to their marriage. She could never get over it mentally. It hurt so much every time an offspring of him was discovered. Oh, please tell me, what's new? Hera simply said, and saw his husband cringe slightly while Hestia looked at her direction and smiling slightly, trying to comfort her as Hera smiled back and mouthed, "Thank you." Hera, stop it, I will go back. To our palace first. Hera stood up and was about to teleport away, but her husband suddenly grabbed her wrist. Please wait, Kushina. Excuse me, Mom. Zeus, Hera and Naruto said simultaneously. Sly, but all people inside the hall snapped their heads toward Naruto when they heard him said, Mom. Hera was about to ask him what he mean by that, but the screen keeps rolling and decided to stay silent. Until the right moment to question the blonde boy. Naruto, however, was slack-jawed, eyes wide open, thinking if his eyes and ears playing tricks on him or he just lost it. Just how many years had he called her with that name? It was so long ago. The only times she found herself truly happy with him, with the marriage between them. No godly power, nothing to worry about, just the love between them. We did lose our power. Is that even possible? Zeus asked silently, but more stating like a fact, not sure if he would be happy or not. Hera only shrugged her shoulders. Elemental nations, the place here primordial gods and goddesses created long ago, separated from this world. It was the world where superhuman beings called shinobi lived and worked, using an energy called chakra to make bend the powers of nature to their will and do things only gods and goddesses of this world could do. Hey, that's where my homeland is. Naruto jumped off his seat excitedly after he convinced himself that I didn't see or hear anything about the Kushina part thing earlier. On the other hand, the Olympian gods were shocked that world like that exists, and if this young kid came from that world means he is quite strong. Athena was filing that into in her head and make sure to find gateway into elemental nations. She was not alone in this, since most of the gods and goddesses had already making plans going. In shinobi world, for whatever purposes, remain unknown. Only Zeus, Hera and the elder gods as well as the upper-class primordial knew about the place, as it was kept at a top secret information to the other gods. Now that's unfair. Ditto. Silence both of you. Zeus blaring at Ares and Apollo. He was starting to get into the story and not wanting to be interrupted. Zeus thought it might be a good idea if the both of them start thing over again, and Hera thought she could finally living in the world she always dream of with her husband at her side. The god of thunder finally liking where the story is going and glancing at her wife to see her reaction. This is it, my moment, come on other me. He muttered excitedly while her wife looking at him oddly. What's gotten into him? She thought, with the help of the fates and Hecate, goddess of magic, they were able to create an artifact body, able to hide their godly aspect as well as the power. Literary became completely human and reincarnated into elemental nation. The both of them thought it might be a good experience in order to strengthen their relationship. Z's was a boy named Minato Namikaze. His black hair changed to blonde, and features changed as well to match the appearance of the people at Elemental Nation, but he kept his brilliant electric blue eyes. Hera masked herself with the name Kushina Uzumaki. Her appearance also changed, but Hera still keep her fiery nature, which scared the hell out of Zeus. Minato. On the screen an image of Kushina and Minato appeared. So I'm not really losing myself. They are my parents. That's really lot to take in, Naruto said, avoiding to look at the royal couple since it was very uncomfortable to know that these powerful gods were his other self. Parents, I'm impressed, Hera, you outdid yourself here. You look gorgeous. I agree with Aphrodite. You are beautiful here, sister, Demeter said. At her younger sibling, Hera ignored both of them and only focused her attention to the monitor, but in her mind she was happy that even in mortal aspect she stays beautiful. They had so much fun time together. Since Zeus was also the god of drama, he was so into his character that he couldn't help but more into Kushina as well. Oh, I am wanting to see that. The lovey-dovey tunes. Both Hera and Zeus only sighed at beauty goddess sparing themselves for headache. Get your hand off me, she said coldly, and don't you dare call me with that name again, Zeus. Really, brother, even in your mortal body you can't make your wife happy, an all-time record, don't you think? Poseidon mocked. Zeus glared at him with so much hate. Damn it, when is this going to be over? He whispered to himself, contemplating whether to destroy the TV monitor or not. Everything came with a price, the fates had warned them about it. But the two couldn't aware of what would happen there. They had a son there. His name was Naruto. He was no god, just a boy who Hera bared and birthed in the traditional way. The first time in her life, she felt so much price from her child. He was so perfect to her and Zeus. Who wouldn't be? Hera said softly. Naruto heard it, blush slightly. The prince of Olympus, now everything's starting to make sense. This boy, Athena looking critically at the screen while taking a quick look at Naruto time to time, who still remained silent. But everything was ruined the same night, just because she chose to be Kushina Uzumaki. Hera, please, I'm sorry, Zeus said, also standing up. I can't just let Talia like that fall into the hand of my brother. Then you shouldn't bring her to this world in the first place, Zeus. Hera turned around, her beautiful brown eyes radiating with power. It was all your fault, your fault. She raised her voice a little. I know, if it not for you, nothing is going to happen. If it not for you, I wouldn't be hated by most of the Olympians, thinking that I am nothing more than a demigod's hater. She pushed him with each words. But Zeus just stood there, listened to her every words. If it's not for you, Naruto-kun would still be alive. She fancied with a massive hit on his chest, nearly breaking his godly ribs. This raised curiosity to all gods. They know even Zeus is not a very good husband, but as father he can be responsible and he love all his children despite of some uncalled decisions, so seeing him the sole reason his mortal son was dead was really mind-boggling. Hera, however, not sure what to feel at this point, especially when she looked at her alternate son. Her beautiful son was dead the same day he made the first cry. A creature whose power rivaled Typhoon, Olympus, Destroyer, could kill her and her husband's human aspects, but it couldn't kill their godly nature. So instead of themselves, humans' souls went to elemental nation's underworld, while the artifact body with a soul named Minato forever stuck in Shinagami's gut and suffered the worst kind of pain. When the two returned from the death and asked for Naruto, their son, so they could bring him to this world and raise him as he was the new connection of Zeus and Hera. Sarutobi Hiruzen, one of the On people, knew about their true existence, told them he was dead. Their son, Naruto, was dead. Mom, poor kid. They all thought, except for Dionysus and Ares, doing what they always do, minding their own business, not giving damn about the story. Hera tried to search for his memories to see if he was telling the truth or not. But the moment she saw the old Hokage gently laid a small coffin down to the hole between their supposed grave, Hera broke down into tears. Even she couldn't come to visit him and once again hold him in her arms, just because Elemental Nation's underworld was very different than them. The place was out of order. There was no Elysium. No mercy was shown there, just the worst punishment for souls. That's harsh. I can only imagine what Shinagami do to those souls. Demeter frowned and continued. Good thing Hades wasn't here, or we'll never hear the end of it. Zeus wasn't better than her. He tried to act tough, but the death of his son was too much. They both swore to never return to elemental nations, as the place brought them too much painful memories. Hera locked herself in her palace days, then weeks became months and months became years. She never experienced her child's death before, as all of her children were gods or goddesses. But it broke her heart just remember about Naruto. Zeus, he only appeared on Olympus on winter solstice and spent much times on earth in grief of his son. Can't blame them. They lost their mortal son. Hestia said mournfully, Her siblings found a way to mend their strained marriage, yet fate was cruel to them once again. Naruto was also wistful. He can't help but feel a bit miffed. Seriously, dead, can't he just get a break and start his life in a happy tune? That was when he got immortal pregnanted with his child, completely breaking the oath of the big three. Do not try to vindicate yourself, Zeus. I know you better than anyone. Hera looked away. She didn't want to meet his eyes, the same eyes of her son. Naruto, you sealed the Kyuubi in N. Boruto, and that is the reason why he was deaf, all because of you. Kyuubi, as in like those Asian fox spirit. It seems so. This is getting interesting though. Then an image of nine-tailed Kyuubi appear on the screen. Whoa, that's a one big badass fox. Naruto brightened when he heard that, but still left confused why he can't contact his longtime partner in crime. It is as big as Typhon, the awestruck Artemis said. The Olympian gods gulped in agreement and feeling lucky that they don't need to face another monstrosity like of that Typhon. So lucky that they don't get to see the 10-tailed Jubi. I don't have anything to justify myself, but I did what I must. As a leader of Konaha, there was a long moment of silence between them. However, before neither of them could speak up, the entire throne room shook violently when a massive wave of power hit them. All over the world the gods and goddesses gasped in shock when that wave of energy hit them. While the minor gods was confused by the energy wave, all of the Olympians knew the true reason about that wave of energy. It once happened before and only happened once in a lifetimes. In fact, the Olympians couldn't believe He would able to feel it the second time during their immortal life. It was the feeling of a human fighting on the equal ground of a primordial being. Such fact almost impossible. Almost impossible. What is this thing saying? Of course it's impossible. Ares shouted, can't believe a mere mortal fighting toe against a primordial. That was just unacceptable. Zeus, I know. The king of God no. Dead his head at his queen's call and summoned his master bolt. Launching a massive thunderbolt to the sky that shook an entire sky, Zeus summoned the other 12 Olympians, even Hades. In flashes of light, all 12 Olympians appeared in the throne room, sitting down their respective throne with an confused expression on their face, especially the younger gods and goddesses. Hades appeared a moment later and sat down the chair prepared for him, actually surprised by the sudden invitation to Olympus. Hestia was also present and sitting at her usual place beside the hearth. Olympians, Zeus spoke with a book. I summon you all here to discuss about the sudden wave of energy hit the godly world just a moment ago. What about it, Father? Athena spoke up. In all my immortal life I have never feel something like that. I tried to search for it in book and... Please Athena, we don't need you to rant about what you found in there. Ares spoke up sarcastically. My thoughts exactly. The low offer opens his mouth again. Care to repeat that, owl head? Ares, Athena, enough. You have a death wish, Ares. The goddess of war looked at him dangerously. You wanna fight? Oh, I get it. Apollo laughed while pointing between Aphrodite and the god of war. Zeus disturbed the both of you, didn't he? I guess Ares was about to circa. Naruto was blushing madly at that, trying to erase that part out. His head while Ares smirked and Aphrodite grinned at Apollo, who pouted like a kid. Ah, you're no silent. Zeus roared, making all voices in the throne room disappeared. Good, then listen carefully. What you felt just a moment ago was the alerting energy, only appear when a human fighting on the equal ground against a primordial being. Almost every jaws in the room were dropped down to the ground in shock. You're kidding, Father. Athena was the first Olympians to regain her cool. You're kidding. No mere mortal could fight against a god, let alone a primordial being which could be even stronger than gods themselves. Just like I said, we heard you the first time, Ares. No need to repeat yourself, it's getting irritating, Athena murmured. You got problem. A sudden spike of aura stops the two gods and saw Hestia. One more word. The goddess smiling sweetly in an almost intimidating way, not even sparing a glance at both gods fighting. The two caved in, not wanting to aggravate the kind goddess any further. Apollo, as cheeky as he is, find it funny. Whoa, it only all takes Hestia to shut these two. That's so rich, haha hey, he chuckled. My words are the truth. I swear it on the sticks. Thunders rumbled outside and even most of them didn't admit it. They hoped Zeus was punished by telling lie. even though it couldn't happen due to his position at a god. Now, as I was saying, his wave of energy only appeared to alert the immortal whenever a human have power to fight against someone equal, or even powerful than them. We still don't know much anything this mortal or the one he was fighting. But that mortal can become a dangerous threat to us if we don't do something about it. Iris, show us. Zeus sat down to his throne and called out El Pudli to the goddess of rainbow, and make sure no one can see us. A thin mist appeared at the middle of the throne room and the screen of different place slowly appeared inside. A humanoid figure then slowly made itself clear within the mist. At first it was just a shadow figure, but slowly they could see how the humanoid figure truly looked like. No, they all heard. Hera gasped in shock. Even Zeus dropped his master bolt and stood up from his throne in shock. It can't be, Zeus muttered. Anyone but her. Naruto, having an idea who they were talking, but remained silent but looking closely at the screen. The person within the iris mist was a woman with extremely beauty, with extremely long, sweeping white hair that touched the ground. Most noticeable were two horn-like protrusions which stuck out from her head. The woman had abnormal white eyes, with the veins around her temples became noticeable, and she also had a third eye on the center of her forehead, that's eyelids parted vertically. Her eyebrows were cut very short, a symbol of nobility, and she wore a dark shade of lipstick on her lips and a dark shade of nail polish on her long fingernails. She wore the transitional high-collared hime kimono, which was adorned with intricate lines that are gold and purple and tomo running down the center and edges of the gown. Kagaya Otsutsuki, Zeus muttered in absolute horror. Now, the other children of Zeus also recognized her as well and was looking at the mist in shock. Athena saw Naruto narrow his eyes when Kagaya appears. This made her curious if the boy know this being. Do you know her? She asked. Well, I did fight her couple of months ago, Naruto timidly said. What? That's bull, Ares. But, Zeus slammed his fist on the armrest. I've had enough of you. When say I stop, you stop. Do you understand? The god of war reluctantly nodded but giving hate look at Naruto's direction. Father, who is she? Athena asked with a worrying tone. She had never seen the look of shock and horror on her father, wife and the other older gods and goddesses' face like that. Kagaya Otsutsuki, the first human who ever became a primordial by eating the fruit of world tree, and she became the primordial goddess of rabbit. Standing at the equal ground as the other primordial gods and goddesses, Poseidon informed them, making all widen their eyes in shock, even the fighting-loving war god like Ares. However, since she was not originally an immortal being herself, Kagaya Otsutsuki had grown despotic and developed both a god complex and messiah complex. More or less she became mad with power. Then an image of Kagaya Otsutsuki in her regal form appeared in the screen. Apollo whistled at the image. This one is a hottie. Really? Is that all you got to say, hottie? Artemis asked. Apollo annoyingly can't believe the shallowness of his twin brother. Well, what do you want me to say? Cutie. UGHH. Just don't say anything at all for a sake. Sorry sis, can't promise. But father, how come we never heard of her? Athena asked. Surely someone with that much power will. Because she is not from this dimension. Hades spoke up with a dark tone. You think we can take her if we fight her? God of Wine asked, finally joining the conversation. I doubt that. We're talking primordial here and we have yet to see her abilities, Athena said. Makes sense. All question then disappeared from the Olympians, when suddenly a flash of light appeared next to Kagaya, with energy-like claws formed around their hands. The person used it to cut away one of the goddess of rabbit's hand. Quote, ... He was the coolest guy. The person shouted before disappearing again in a flash of light, so fast that even the fastest god Hermes couldn't be able to follow him. I don't like how they pointed out that. Hermes frowned. Zeus. Hera called out for her father in absolute shock. That technique just now looked exactly like Hiroshine. The lighting god muttered, but only his wife could hear him. It was Hiroshine or something akin to that. Zeus could recognize the way it anywhere. Hiroshine. Did I create that one? Zeus asking himself as he looked at blonde boy who was so focused watching the fight. The person reappeared behind Kagaya and delivered a roundhouse kick to her back, sending her flying before pulling out two black sticks from the black orbs leviating behind his back, throwing it toward the limp arm of Kagaya on the ground, stabbing through it like he was doing it to keep that arm immobile. They finally got a glimpse of the mortal who was fighting Kagaya head-on, which made Zeus and Hera gasp in total shock. The person bared a striking resemblance to Zeus, once human disguised with blonde and spiky hair. However, his eyes was orange instead of brilliant blue and greatly resemble a cross at his pupils. However, his face was almost like Kushina Uzumaki, Hera's human body with 3 black lines on each cheeks. He was wearing what looked like a yellow, energy coat with a black bodysuit underneath. The bodysuit covered his torso, reaching down his arms to his knuckles, and down his legs to the point just above his sandals. He also had a pattern of 6 magatama around his collar. Sasuke, out of the way, it seemed that he wasn't the only one who was fighting her, as there was another boy who covered his entire body in a thick, purple-like energy in the shape of a gigantic warrior samurai with wings. How are these humans capable of doing these things is beyond me, Athena shocked at the feats of these mortals can do. Yea, they are even stronger than any demigods, Apollo frowned. These shinobi is really something else. Quick, Naruto, the black-haired boy shot himself out of the gigantic warrior and shouted. Nah, Naruto, it can't be, it is impossible, Hera shouted with tears leaking down her cheeks. She was outright crying right now. The only persons who would name their child with the name of a ramen topping, which coming from a book of Minato-sensei would be her and her husband. Yash, let's do this, guy, he shouted before in 9 puffs of smoke. 8 identified clones of himself appeared on thin air, circling around Kagaya with each holding a different kind of energy orb above them. But all 9 had the same wings of energy which greatly resembled the shurikens. Wow, Apollo and Hermes wolf whistle as the sight of the technique, while Ares was grinning maw. DLY because of the incredible thrill fight, who is this guy? It is like watching Hollywood action, supernatural movies here. The Rasengan. Zeus sat back down his throne heavily, he completed it. Zeus turned to Naruto. Can you do all those things? Naruto was surprised at the question but answered him happily. Yeah, Ero Senin taught me, though took me a while to learn it, and it was you Imea. And other you my father who created it. Naruto shyly said, though his slip went unnoticed to royal couples which made them a little happy, especially Zeus. Senpo. Cho Biju Recentrican. They show. UTED and threw all 9 Recentrican at the goddess of rabbit at once, creating a massive explosion that sent her flying. Incredible, Athena said in amazement. Are you sure he is human? There is nothing about what we just saw human. He is more than just human. Poseidon spoke up again. I guess he is a shinobi, but I have never seen one this powerful since millennium ago. Shinobi, shut your mouth, owl head. This is getting good. Ares cried out loudly when another gigantic warrior appeared. From within was a man with silver hair and a mask covered the lower half of his face. Hestia just sighed. Why just can't my family get along? Was it too much to ask? She thought sadly. Zeus, do you think it is him? Hera turned to her husband and asked at him with the most hopeful tone. Do you think he is our Naruto? Possible, but why did Hiruzen told us he was dead? Zeus asked, his hand holding the master bolt dangerously. If he is truly our son, Hiruzen got a lot to explain, and if that is not the case now, Zeus, our son is fighting against a primordial being, she shouted in his mind, just in case anyone heard the conversation between them. We got to help him, he could be killed. She was about to stand up when Zeus suddenly put a hand on her shoulder, stopping her. Don't, Hera. Remember our oath, he said. It would only bring bad luck to Naruto, and that will be the last thing he needs at the moment. But he is in danger, Minato. She nearly cried out with her own voice. Why can we just go there and help him? What do you suggest what we should do now? For now, we can only stay here and watch. Hope that the fates are with us this time, was only his reply before Zeus turned back to the iris, mist. Hera bit her upper lips and sat down to her throne. Her eyes were the same as her husband, filled with worry, yet they both hid it rather well. The Queen of Olympus couldn't help but worry as well. Her other son was fighting primordial being that's even stronger than them then. She looked at her son. He was smiling at the fight scenes. However, Naruto catch her looking at him and mouthed, "It's okay." She was surprised at this. Did he know what she was feeling? She nodded at him and went back to the story. The fight soon turned out quite well for Naruto and his team. as they successfully sealed away Kagaya and the giant monster with a rabbit appearance by some kind of power th. At gathered rocks on the ground to lock her inside an gigantic orb of earth, which then flew slowly to the sky and looks just like a small version of the moon. But what shocked them the most was 9. Massive beasts resembled various animals with the tails increase from 1 to 9s was released from the inside of the heavenly rabbit, circling around Naruto's team. They did it. I can believe that. They did it. Hera gasped before a beautiful smile made it to her face. Naruto. I dunno what to say now. That was so otherworldly and freaking amazing. Even Artemis found herself speechless, not having an ounce to bop Apollo. Are you really this strong? Athena, who was equally shocked, asked Naruto. I don't know. You don't know? I guess so. Quote, don't you really? The blonde hero fidgeted at his chair, feeling naked the way the goddess of wisdom stared at him. It was like she was trying to decipher the very mystery of his being, and it's making him uncomfortable. Fortunately, Hera saved Naruto from hundreds of questions. Athena, that is enough. You can ask him after we get finished, Hera simply said. Naruto beamed at her and silently thanked her, whom Hera accepted wholeheartedly. Son, Zeus whispered. He was never this proud in his immortal life. Then they saw the blonde called Naruto turned back to normal, revealing his normal feature as well as his brilliant azure blue eyes just like Zeus. Walking to the limp arm of Kagaya, which now all of the Olympians could see something dark with a face, sharp teeth and all inside of the sleeve. Ew. Is that a blob? How can that thing exist? Aphrodite exclaimed. By the way, you didn't want to leave your mom, right? He asked with a slight smirk. Wait, what? Mom as in mother? The god of sun shouted outright, not believing the primordial beauty birthed a genetically wrong being. That was just so wrong in so many levels. Huh. Looks like your hottie is not as good as you think, Artemis smugly said, loving how his brother being torn in two. Why, you, the dark being muttered in shock. You have been hiding in the shadow all this time, but I noticed you. He reached his hands out and grabbed the arm. You're just a part of the shinobi's history I created so far. You are just a brat, you can't. Naruto's eyes hardened before saying. The shinobi's history was made by the lives of many ninja and their deaths. He then gripped his hand before pulling the arm off the ground and threw it toward the forming moon. A brat who can't even leave his mother's side, won't ever understand a thing about it. He roared. That is very wise words for such a young boy. Athena nodded her head. I couldn't agree more. Wow, shocker. I would be surprised if you don't agree. Apollo snickers, though stops when Athena glared at him. Shinobi, ninja, father, you have a lot to explain, she said after the 4 people and 9 beasts disappeared in flashes of light. The goddess of rainbow then made the mist disappeared, leaving the Olymp. Ians alone to discuss thing among themselves. Line break. Hera, wait, you can't do it. Zeus called as he followed his wife into the palace they shared together. The queen of the gods was in a hurry, acking every weapons and put on the armors she hadn't wore in a very long time. I'm going there, Hera said with a firm tone, stripping of the stunning dress she was wearing to put on a golden shirt, following by lightweight breastplate, and you can't change my mind, Zeus, not in the slightest. I know that you're worried for Naruto, but we just can't stomp into his world and say we're his parent just like that. Especially when you're intent to take him with you when you return. Zeus frowned. Remember our oath, Mira. Screw the oath. Thunder rumbled outside. I don't care the consequence, I will go there and take my baby boy back with me. But again, before she could teleport away, Zeus wrapped his arms around her to stop his wife. Hera felt pride at her other self. She knew she will do the same thing, standing at her own belief no matter what the consequences are. While Zeus felt different kind of pride, having sired a powerful and responsible son with her wife Hera the mother, he can never be happy more than this. Now he felt jealous at his other self. If only. Zeus and Hera sighed softly. Unknown to them, Naruto was feeling the same way too. No, they are not my parents, but, a teary-eyed Naruto whispered to himself. I'm worried too, Kushina, he said with a surprised soft tone for an almighty king of the god, using the name he called her while their adventure at Elemental Nati. Ons, but you have to think about his well-being first. You came there, and Styx will serve her punishment on our son because we break our oath. Do you really want that? But Hera bit her bottom lips, dropping the celestial bronze knife in her hands. What are we going to do now, Minato? I can't leave him there. 17 years without one of our sons was already too much for me, especially Naruto. Then, what are you going to do about it? Hera asked, turning around to face her husband. I'm going to ask one of my children, one of the Olympians, to come and get him. Zeus stopped himself before he could mention his other children with different women. Anger Hera now would be the last thing he want. Maybe Athena or Artemis, because they are the most suitable for the job. The unfairness of this story is screaming. Shut it, Hermes. It wasn't like Hera got anything to say to change her husband's mind. His decision was final, and Hera too was afraid of the punishment Styx would put on Heir's son if one of them break the oath they both swore 17 years ago. Then they better bring him here unharmed. Hera's eyes then turned cold. What about the people that lied to us? Why did Hiruzen, one of the only people Minato could trust and reveal their true identities to, lied to them about their son's death? I will think about it, Zeus said, but when I finally got my hand on him, or anyone who related to this matter, they better have a good explanation to us, or else I swear on the Styx they will pay for taking the rightful prince of Olympus from us. Yay, get em pops, no one mess. Ed with Lil Bro, Apollo and Hermes said in unison as they thumbs up at Naruto, while Artemis only rolled her eyes at her brother's antics. So many idiots. End of Part 1, Chapter 2. Previously, that's it. Artemis looked at his twin brother face palming. Sometimes I ask myself how you become related to me. Thank you, sis. I know you love me, moron. Saving her nephew for major beating, Hestia intervened. Apollo, there are still orbs left. Anyway, maybe we should take a break first before we go to the second part of the story, she suggested and turned to Naruto. Is that okay with you? Naruto could only nod, still trying to comprehend everything that happened. Suddenly a bright flash engulfed the hall. Two human figures appear, a female and a male. The lights died down and all the people in the hall gasped in shock. In front of them were none other than Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. Quote. Naruto, is that you? Quote. Quote. Mom, Dad, what are you two doing here? Okay, define awkward. Apollo quipped. Naruto. Sochi. The Uzumaki woman stuttered, cupping her hands on Naruto's cheeks, and continued. I can't believe it. It's really you. Oh, my baby boy. I missed you so much. As she hugged him and showered with kisses before looking back. Why you only standing there, Minato-kun? Come here. Minato, who just broken out of his shock, approached the two slowly and stand beside the shaking boy and his wife. Hey son, it's been a while, right? Naruto couldn't take it anymore, lunged at his parents and cried while mumbling how much he missed them, especially his mom. It's okay, Sochi. Your father and I are here now, Kushina said softly as she wiped away the tears on his son's face while Minato patted his back, soothing him. Meanwhile, the Olympian gods had different reactions. Some were touched at the scene while the rest were indifferent, but the most affected out of them were Zeus and Hera. They felt conflicted and a bit jealous to their counterparts. Hestia, seeing this, took a long sigh. She knew her siblings was actually starting to see Naruto as their own, so watching him reunited with his real parents stings a little. This will complicate things, as she looked back at the Uzumaki family. So Mom, how'd you and Dad get here? Not that I am not happy having you both back, but it's kinda weird me out, Naruto said, finally regained his composure, looking at his parents for answers. Kushina and Minato looked at each other as the latter nodded, conveying it will be fine. Mom, Dad, you see Sochi, it goes like this. Flashback. Minato-kun, do you know why we're here? Sorry Kushi-chan, but I can't think of any reason why Shinagami-sama summoned us. Then they heard the door opened and turned to look. What they saw horrified them. Hundreds of soul cruelly being tortured left and right in unimaginable ways. Hoa help us. Stop it please. Just end me now. Quote. Was that Danzo just now? The Uzumaki couple thought at the same time. Suddenly a figure came in and shut the door. It was the Shinagami. Sorry for the wait. Been very busy since the influx of souls become so great after the recent war. Now let's go down to business, we have no time, so listen. Smiling wickedly at the two who's frozen on their spot, couldn't forget what they saw but eventually managed to listen to the death god. After few minutes, the couple was left speechless. So Kami-sama granted us to be with our son for a time being. Yes, can't say no to her. You're not pulling our leg. Kushina-chan. Forgive my wife Shinagami-sama, what she meant was we're really grateful by this. Yay, enough talk. You both ready yourselves, I'm gonna send you now to where your son is. Like now. Yes, as in now. Shinagami snapped his fingers as the two disappeared. Finally, Shinagami smirked as he remembered what he had stored for them. Just when they thought they are lucky, oh well, good luck to them. Now what to do with you? He smiled evilly. RW Random Soul cried, shut up, you're annoying. Splat. Next. End of flashback. Wow. Just wow. But why would Kami-sama do that? Naruto asked. Maybe she knows the deeds you've done in the war, Minato noted. Naruto not sure anymore what to say, only smiled, then quickly it struck him. Oh shoot, I almost forgot. Mom, Dad, you wouldn't believe this. You see, Shinagami sent us in a distant place. I don't know to explain this, but we are not in Konaha or any part of elemental nations, we're in different world. Sochi, are you high? Kushina said, crossing her arms, frowning at her son. What? Of course not. Kushina, I think our son is right, look. The red-haired Uzumaki turned her eyes where her husband was pointing at and gasped. On the other hand, Hera was studying the female Uzumaki closely. She really does look gorgeous in her opinion, while Zeus having done the same while looking at the Yondaime Hokage. He looks scrawny, King of Olympus thought. I was thinking how long before they notice us, said an amused Poseidon. Hermes, tilting his head, looked back at the gods and chuckled. The state we're in, we do look like statues though. I mean, we barely even move. No wonder they paid no attention to us. This made the gods a bit conscious and righted themselves on their seats. However, Naruto explained everything that had happened to his parents, and the Uzumaki couple were shocked was understatement. Never in their wildest dream, no, not even during their crazy moments, will they find themselves standing in front of not just one but 12 gods. Plus the fact that the two of them who were the king and queen were their counterparts was mind-shattering. Then a cough broke out of their musings as they heard Zeus speaks. Welcome to MT, Olympus. I presume your son had already explained to both of you the current situation you are in. I know this brought a lot of questions, but it would be better if we save it till later so we can. Now proceed. Yay, we've already postponed it for 15 minutes. Come on, I'm all itching to know what happens next. Aphrodite pouted cutely. Minato, as the head of his family, willed himself and bowed to Zeus. Forgive you, Zeus-sama, if we took a lot of your time. Please, you may start now. The thunder god nodded at him, but before he crushed the orb, a white big couch appears next to Uzumaki family. Go make yourselves see. Comfortable, Hera said softly, looking directly at Naruto before giving a quick irritated glance at Kushina, who narrowed her eyes at the Queen of Olympus. Please, you may, husband. Zeus nodded at her wife and smashed the orb. Finally, he added. Why do we hear again? Artemis, the goddess of the moon and hunt, asked with a rather annoyed tone, looking around the throne room to ask for the answer she rightfully deserved. Sis, it's you. Does that surprise you? No. Then shut up. This morning, when she was about to wake her hunters up and start a new day of hunting, maybe turning a few males into jackalope just for the fun of it. Cough, power tripper cough. You say something, drunkard. Dionysus shook his head negatively but snickered silently. Just a question, sis. I swear this is legitimate. Does it always have to be a jackalope? Why not try a hippo or an insect like roaches? You. No saves you trouble. Apollo cut in but shuts up when he saw the heated look at him by Artemis. Cuss. Hina covered his son's eyes while Minato covered his ears, while both blushing madly at the display. Have they no shame? The Uzumaki matriarch thought, looking at the god of war and the goddess of beauty in disgust. It disgusted her to no end. Artemis wanted nothing more than launched a knife or maybe an arrow to the place where her brother's chariot couldn't reach, more or less to both of them. You come and try, Ares dared. Why you so mean to me, sis? Apollo asked in overdramatic tone while the said goddess of hunt ignored both of them, but you could see a satisfaction grin on her beautiful face. Looking at the Olympus infamous lovers, but Aphrodite not liking what she said and asked. Are you comparing me to a whore? Are you not? Oh ho ho ho. Damn, that's brutal, Hermes butted. Aphrodite gritted in anger and couldn't make a comeback and looked at his lover expecting him to defend her, but he just waved his one hand in airy dismissal as if not caring at all. "This hurt," asked the goddess of beauty and stayed silent. Aphrodite's supposed husband, Hephaestus, who was tickling with the machine on his lap, was outright ignoring them, like they was just the morning sunlight he have to see every day. Really, she pitied him, but women like Aphrodite was the cause why men looked down on the rest of the women population. Aphrodite, not wanting to see any more of the insults thrown at her, just looked down, finding the floor more interesting. Naruto, however, saw this and saddened by the fact that this has become normal thing to happen. Couldn't they be more little sensitive to what they say? It's like TS part of their godly beings to throw cheap shot to their own family, and to think this is his other self's family made him scowl even more. Dionysus was reading a wine magazine while drinking from a Coke of can. It looked like he was still affected by their father's punishment on him. Demeter was ranting about cereal again, and the only Olympian who patient enough to sit down and hear her out was Aunt Hestia, her most favorite goddess. Hestia smiled warmly at her niece while Artemis grinned at her but grimaced as she saw the next clip. Her childish brother was talking with Hermes about the women they met in their immortal life, which disgusted her to no end. Poseidon was minding his own business, maybe thinking about Atlantic and his people. Surprisingly, Hades was so present here with them and was sitting on his usual spot, closing his eyes and thinking about what for all she cared. She didn't hate Hades, or she hated him either, it was just that his presence here other than winter solstice in an emergency meeting wouldn't be something good. Speaking of Hades, why is he not here? Demeter asked. He said he has better things to do than watch some boring flick, Hermes replied. Or maybe busy giving you a grandchild, he added in afterthought. The only Olympians she was comfortable with was Athena, since the both of them share many things in common, but Curry. NTLY, the goddess of wisdom, was reading a book she took from the Library of Gods, which definitely about elemental nations. Athena thought about it and planning to drop by on her majestic library to if there's a book about the shinobi world. It would be a lie if Artemis refused to accept that she didn't have any interest in the place. Based on Zeus' words, the book Athena was holding was one of the many books written about elemental nations, belonged to Hera herself. It seemed the couple visited the dimension before and brought back with them a few books about the world, to prepare for day they informed the council about said dimension. So they did come to our world, Minato said flatly. It's cool, isn't, Mom? I think you and Dad are the most badass parents ever. Thank you, Sochi. Kushina chuckled at her son's antics and kissed him on his head, not noticing the disapproval look directed to her solely by the queens of Olympus. That mortal, how dare she? Hera offensively thought. Kushina saw this, smirked at her and silently mouthed, sorry but my son, emphasizing the last part, which made Hera feeling annoyed even more at the female Uzumaki, while their respective husbands sweat dropped at their wives' childish act and gave out a long sigh. Women, they muttered. Hestia, seeing this, giggled at their expense. Hey Artie, enough with the Artie. Apollo's face was paled as a ost when a knife was thrown at him faster than his eyes could see. Fortunately, Poseidon saw it and used his water power to stop the knife before it could make a contact with the sun god's face. How about Emmy? Artemis took her knife and was about to hit his brother. Hey sis, easy. Geez, you don't need to reenact that part, you know. Well, Artemis, try not to murder your brother next time, Poseidon said with an amused chuckle, making the tentacle of water carry the hunting knife back to Artemis. Nice save there, uncle. Thanks, but don't expect us to save your skin every time you tease your sister. Can't help it, it's in my blood, right sis? Moron. What do you want, Apollo? Artemis asked, taking back her knife and strapped it to her waist again. Do you know why we are all here again? How should I know? And why do you think that I know? Well, you're always Pop favorite, so I thought he has a reason for calling us here. So true, Dionysus sourly said. Jealous much, said an annoyed Artemis. Like you, I got better thing to do. She thought about her hunters. Her Lieutenant Zoe would keep everything in place for her, but what if monsters attacked them? Maybe it was too parano. It of her to think something like that, but years of hunting with the hunt, Artemis had come to realize maybe a little paranoid would prevent heartbreaking lost from within her girls. Maybe with years ND years like this she would soon turn out just like Zeus. That would be disaster, a female Zeus. Bah, Poseidon said, earning cackles from others gods including Hera, which irked both Artemis and Zeus. Speaking out the king of God, the royal couple of Olympus appeared in the middle of the throne room in a lightning bolt, struck down to the ground in front of them. In front there Zeus and Hera stepped out. The queen looked a little distracted. Her perfect beauty that could even rival Aphrodite herself was totally ruined with blood spots underneath her eyes. Her hair was a mess and her white dress was messy and taken carelessly. Hera glared at her, challenging the red-haired mother. What did you just say? That's enough, Hera. The goddess of marriage relented on his husband's words before giving Kushina a harsh look, who only scoffed at her. As the rest of the gods thought the same thing. This woman has guts of a tiger. The Uzumaki father-son duo, however, thanking silently to all kinds of odds and deities, and felt a very deserving great sense of relief. Whoa, I don't know what to say anymore. Aphrodite got back to her throne and fixed herself, looking at the queen of God with pitiful eyes. You're a mess, Hera. But the usual short temple goddess didn't reply or said anything. Instead, she walked to her throne and sat down, lowering her hair and face. She had a nightmare last night, Abu. The day Kyuubi killed her and Zeus' human body, but instead of Minato and Kushina, it was her and Zeus taking their place in order to save their son Naruto. It was just dream, yet so real. Minato and Kushina shuddered as they remembered that incident. Ahem, I will start the meeting them. Zeus spoke loudly with his usual booming and powerful tone after clearing his throat. It's about the boy we see last night, the boy named Naruto. What about him? Ares spoke up without thinking. Why do we have to be here for just a blondie with ridiculous whisker? Cheeks. Hera and Kushina vehemently glared at Ares while the said god only cowered in his seat. Who does this steroid-induced maniac think he is insulting my Sochi? Kushina sneered while listing ways to torture the war god with her chakra chains. Because Ares, he is, for once, the prideful king of gods, was lost for words. He couldn't just state Naruto as his son just like Ares. Because he is your little brother, you damn warmonger. Hera roared, making Ares and the rest of the council flinched under her sudden outbreak. HMPH, I can do better than that. Kushi-chan, please. Damn, not again. Apollo groaned, just like any other male gods around the room. Brother, Poseidon stood up with his trident radiating with power. You broke the oath twice. His voice was so angry that one could imagine a storm causing chaos on top of a peaceful ocean. Explain yourself. Not another demigod. Hades groaned, but he was also angry, very angry. Do you have any words before I tell the monsters to hunt him down? The whole council broke out in argument. Some said that the boy looked older than 16 years old already, so he wouldn't involve in the great prophecy by any chance, while the others, mainly Ares, said that Naruto was too much of a threat for his power, which rival a primordial being himself, so he would need to disappear before he became a threat to Olympus. Without warning, all the people felt a massive killing intent, and turned to the source and surprised it came from Zeus and Minato. The former emit murderous feeling while the latter has cold look etched on his face. Underworld, what's this bad feeling? You still here? Aren't you going to visit Mount Olympus? Persephone asked his husband. That's the plan, but something tells me I shouldn't go back to Olympus. Zeus was quite surprised by this sudden argument because normally, he would be the one shouting about one being a dangerous threat to Olympus. Decided that it was enough, the king of gods raised his master bolt and was about to silence the whole council when Hera suddenly grabbed his weapon and shot a massive lightning bolt to the middle of the throne room, completely silent everyone. Be silent, all of you, she roared. Naruto's not just Zeus' son, he's also my son. The youngest son of mine and your king's, he is the rightful prince of Olympus. She declared loudly, making all of the Olympians, save for Hestia, dropped their mouth to the ground in shock, their eyes as wide as dinner plates. Like a boss, Apollo said whilst Naruto swelled in happiness. He can't help but thank his alternate mother for standing up for him. Seek down. Zeus put a hand on his wife's shoulder and said with a surprisingly soft tone, making her calm down a bit. Taking back his master bolt, Zeus looked around the council to have a good look at the face of the Olympians. most of whom his children through lot of affairs. Did they really need to mention that? The king of gods moaned. He was a sick being displayed in the story as a bad husband. Naruto however just realized something. Dad, since he's your counterpart, shouldn't some of his traits shared by you? Minato, shocked at this, snapped his head at his son, eyes widen as dinner plates. Kushina heard it and looked suspiciously at her husband. Minato, did you? No, of course not. I would never cheat on you. What are you thinking? The Yondaime Hokage waved his hands frantically, sweating profusely. Just make sure what you say is true, because if I find out you cheated on me, she said, leaving her threats hanging as she narrowed her eyes more at his husband. He then stopped at Hera before nodding his head, receiving an approval nod from his wife. The king of the gods began to tell them about the story of elemental nations. From the day Kagaya ate the fruit of world tree, originally the Jubi, whose power was far more terrifying than anything they could imagine, and became the primordial goddess of rabbit. Then she gave birth to 2 sons, one of them later became the founded of ninjutsu, which led to the creation of ninja world, to the great wars between ninja, the first, then second and then third, before villages was found by uniting clans of ninja together. Everyone gasped in horror save for Minato and Naruto when the image of Jubi appeared on screen. I don't understand. How can a tree be so terrifying? And I'm sure that monster doesn't look a tree to me, Ares said, pointing at the image of Jubi's incomplete form. Did I miss something? Athena rolled her eyes at his half-brother, thinking if he's natural blockhead. I'm sure you missed something. Gee, but your puny mind couldn't process it. No one asked your opinion. Athena brushed it off. Whatever you say. Then he got to his journey with Hera there with the help of the Fate and Hecate. It too. Artemis and Athena to calm the goddess of love down when he got to the romantic part, even though the king of gods thought it was no need to tell them how he charmed Hera's human counterpart Kushina. Zeus still believed it was necessary for them about Naruto's born. The Uzumaki couple smiled as they remembered how they fell for each other. Unknown to them, Aphrodite was watching them and led a true smile for the first time that night. The rest of the story was very hard for him to tell, because it was something he wished he didn't have to mention again. He thought he lost a great son that night, but turned out that he was still alive and well, archived many things that not even the greatest hero of their world, Hercules, could. In the end, no one dared to say a word, not even Ares. You know I can always try. The question is, do we care? Hephaestus said. Shut up, you cripple. Artemis was shocked, totally shocked. She couldn't imagine the royal couple of Mount Olympus not only acting but actually be humans, and gave birth to a son together at elemental nations. The child, while wasn't an immortal god, definitely had clearly shown the power that he should be a god in the first place. Artemis still know very little about the power of these shinobi, but she was sure that kind of power couldn't be found on someone else. Of course, that's how cool and different we are, Naruto Oddly said, but Kushina bopped him in the head. Mom, what was that for? That's cutting your train of thought. Minato, seeing his son confused look, explained him. Son, different does not necessarily mean better, you get what I mean. Naruto nodded and felt hitting himself for being arrogant. And Prince, why would they call him Prince? I wonder too, the moon goddess said. Aphrodite gave an incredulous look to her rival. Why would you act so stubborn, denying something that is obviously true? She asked, but more likely a statement. But Artemis wouldn't have any of it, replied, why do you care? Mind your business, will you? While he might be the youngest in all of Zeus and Hera's son were abnormal, wouldn't that make him another abnormal? Artemis, okay, that could have worded better. But my other self do have a point. After all, prince or not, he is male. Naruto was getting angry of how Artemis' counterpart think little of him. That woman has lot of issues, he said so. Early, whilst his parents nodded and murmured their agreement. It would be much easier to show you our memories, but it will take a lot of times to watch. Zeus continued, announcing loudly, now we get back to the reason I call you here. As we already swore to the Styx to never return to elemental nations, we can't go back to the place anymore. Both Hera and I had agreed that we should have at East 1 Olympians go to that world to bring Naruto to his rightful place, here at Olympus. Let's me go, father. Ares jumped in instantly, thinking about the opportunity to fight Naruto far sooner and he planned. I will bring little bro back to Olympus, he finished with a bloodthirsty grin. It was clear for the other Olympians about Ares' intention. He clearly didn't care much about the fact that Naruto is his younger brother. Only a fool wouldn't see that. Kushina quipped, not liking how Ares hatefully eyed his Sochi. If he so much touch my Sochi, God or not, I'll ripped his flesh from his bones, she thought. No, let me go. Artemis didn't know if she should feel surprise or not when Aphrodite raised her hand and squealed with a high-pitched tone. I'm sure I am the one most suitable to bring our smoking prince here. How nice and brave of you, Aphrodite. Thanks, Artemis. Oh, that's just lip service. Why you? Shish. We're watching. Maybe Aphrodite actually cared about bringing Naruto here, but with a different reason. I'm glad that there are so many volunteers, Ares said blankly, not impressed in the slightest when those two were the first to volunteer themselves for the job. He had seen it coming even before the meeting, but last night, we had decided the most suitable ones for this mission. Perfect, Artemis thought to herself. It looks like the meeting is going to end soon. She could finally. Athena and Artemis, please come forward. Actually, I had feeling things would turn out this way. Artemis sighed as she facepalmed, while on the other hand Athena only shakes her head at her sister. Sometimes she acts more childish than her twin brother. Your other self shouldn't be bothered by this anymore, since earlier father made it clear we are his best choice for the mission. I know, but still. UGHHH. Never mind. What? Was all Artemis could say when her father called for her name. Fair enough. The goddess of wisdom nodded her head, closing the book on her lap, and stood up from her seat. Athena already figured it out why her father chose her and Artemis. Plus, this would be a great opportunity for her to go investigating elemental nations with her own eyes. Athena would definitely have field day in there. Demeter cut in. Totally agree, Hermes said, snickering. But, father, why? Artemis asked, shocked. Her father couldn't just force her to a band on her hunt to go search for a boy at a totally different dimension like that. Artemis, you have the best tracking skills. Finding Naruto won't be too much of a trouble for you. Good luck with that. Naruto smirked, however Artemis heard it. You seem so confident with your skills, boy. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Just telling truth. Sochi, remember what your father told you? Yes, mom. While Athena is currently the Olympians has the most knowledge about elemental nations other than the elder gods, so you two are the most suitable ones for this mission. Excuse me, father, but I don't think I will. My decision is final, Artemis. Zeus cut in with a dead serious tone. If you're worried about your hunters, bring them with you. You and Athena should go prepare as quick as possible. What? There's more like her? Naruto asked, pointing at the goddess of hunt, while Apollo chuckled. You know, have idea, kid. If there is nothing more to ask, council dismiss. The Olympians all stood up and flashed away. Save for the royal couple of Olympus, Athena and Artemis. I will go prepare. I will meet with you later, sister, Athena told Artemis before flashing away as well after. Receiving a forced nod from the immortal huntress, Artemis was about to stand up and reason with her father again, when suddenly Hera walked up to her and shockingly kneed down in front of Artemis, taking Artemis' hands into hers. Quote. Whoa, now that is something you don't see every day, Aphrodite commented. That is so refreshing to see, sister, Poseidon added. Hera had an impassive look, but you see a little twitch on her eyes every now and then. Please, Artemis, please bring my Naruto back to me, Hera said with a shaky tone, making Artemis widen her eyes. She had never seen the queen of gods like this. Please, I beg you. He is everything to me. The gods were touched by. Just like at the clip, the gods also touched at the scene saved for Ares and Dionysus. Seeing Hera begging for his son is very unlikely of her, and they would definitely store this in their minds for future teasing. She never liked Hera in the first place. She was the one who caused Artemis' mother so much trouble during childbirth, forcing her mother to go through all to give birth to her and Apollo. But the woman who was kneeling in front of her, after all, she was still a mother. For the first time that night, both mothers of Naruto looked at each other, and a grin on their faces was evident as they gave each other a nod of approval. Well, not that good of a mother when Artemis thought about how Hera treated her sons these past years. But at least she cared deeply about her daughters, and that alone was good enough for Artemis. Her hand then tightened around Hera's hands as she stared into Hera's brown eyes. "I will bring your son back." She nodded her head. "I promise to you that." She didn't have to promise to the sticks to let Hera know that her words is final. That she will bring Naruto Uzumaki to Olympus, back to his parents. "Yeah, that's my sis for you," Apollo said excitedly. "Oh please, can't you just shut up for once?" "Sorry baby sis, can't really help it. Don't call me that." "You idiot." Line break. Naruto put on his black attire, standing in front of the mirror with sad eyes. A day had passed since the end of the Fourth Great Shinobi War. Villages were burying their lost with brief vows. Bands of shinobi had been killed during the war. Some Naruto knew while other, he didn't even know their name before their corpse was brought back to their villages. "Can we skip this part? It's boring," Ares lazily said. "Why don't you skip yourself from watching this instead?" the goddess of wisdom said sourly. "You got problem, Ms. Prissy." "No I don't, do you?" "Enough of both of you." Poseidon saw it, gripping his weapon and giving Ares the look, saying, "You shut up or I'll make you," whilst Hestia glanced at his brother and thanked him, who only nodded back. Everyone was there during the funerals, even Sasuke. They sacrificed their life to protect him as well as the entire world. Kushina saw his son's melancholic face, hugged him and whispering soothing words while his father lightly gripped Naruto's shoulder. The royal couple also felt sad for their son, and want to comfort him but held themselves for doing so since they don't want to make a scene. Neji Hyuga, Naruto stood behind Hinata and remained silent. He didn't know what to say or do. He just stood there with a bunch of flowers in hands. Each flower was for each shinobi of Konaha who fell down at the battlefield. A new day had started. "What? You can't do it, Dabeo!" Naruto shouted with his hand holding his head. Well, he would have both of his hands holding his head if he didn't have his right hands missing from his body. "Dabeo? What kind of fucked up name was that?" Hermes said while Apollo and Ares laughed at that. Naruto was red in anger, bursted out, "It's not a name." "Dabeo, don't laugh at my son Dadbane." Quote. All of a sudden the hall was filled with laughs and giggles. Hestia, as kind as was she, finally decided to stop the others. "Sorry Naruto, we don't mean to laugh at you, actually I find it cute," she said, smiling at the pouting mother and son. "Just imagine Hera has that verbal tick, epic." "Oh really Hermes?" Hera flaring her power at the god of commerce that shuts him up right away. "Shut up brat," Tsunade Senju shouted as she looked at him. "My decision is final. Kakashi Hatake will be the Rokudaime Hokage of the Konoha." "Whoa, that's the mother of all boo," the overexcited Apollo uttered. "Finish that word, I'll make your chest as my next target practice." Apollo paled at his sister and cowered in his seat. "But why not me?" he groaned. Standing next to him was Kakashi, who was giving Naruto his trademark eyes smile, trying to calm the hero of the shinobi war down with both hands in front of him. "I thought after the war. Yes, you're more suitable to become a Hokage than anyone in this village, Naruto." Tsunade stood up and walked to him. "But you're still way too young to handle that job and the responsibility behind it. You can try to become the next Hokage later, but see, apparently the village needs someone like Kakashi at a leader, so I make him my next successor." Minato nodded in agreement, but sweat dropped as he saw his wife and son mumbling with each other about old hag, unfair, and other obscenities he don't know exists. Tsunade then pulled out a bottle of sake from out of nowhere, shocking Shizune, who had made sure to throw all of them away. "Now, let's just to have a drink to celebrate the day I finally escaped from this job." She wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck and pulled him out of the room. "Wait Ba-chan, wait," Naruto cried out when he was being pulled by a 50-years-old woman who got an unimaginable amount of strength. Trying to shrug out of her grip would be a total waste of time. He gave up and let the Hokage pull him out the street. "She's 50, the young male gods groaned in disappointment. Athena shaking her head but in deep thought, these shinobis are really getting more interesting. As soon as the village saw their hero, East entire street cheered out loudly and clapped their hands rapidly for Naruto. Naruto was stunned by the sudden action of the villagers. "Well, while you won't be the Hokage this time, Naruto," Tsunade released him from her grip and smiled at her favorite blonde. "But isn't this what you want?" Kushina and Minato smiled at their son and felt happy that finally he gained the trust of all the people despite of the hardships he faced. "We are so very proud of you," they both thought. Looking around, Naruto found the same feeling he had after Kakashi brought him back to the village after defeating Pain and confronting Nagato. They called him their hero, thanking him for his service during the war and for saving the world. A large grin spread out on Naruto's face while he walked between the people of Konaha. Maybe he shouldn't move with ninja speed any longer on the roofs to get to the Hokage office anymore and start to take a walk among these people. Because they finally acknowledged him as their hero. Naruto remembered those times and felt grateful he found people who guided him in the right path and what makes him today. Line break. Come on, drink Naruto. Naruto tried to push the bottle. Of sake Tsunade was giving him away from his mouth. 2 o'clock in the afternoon and he was already forced to drink the 7th bottle. That old bat, the Uzumaki matriarch said looking at the screen in anger. Calm down Kushi-chan, I think our son is already old enough to drink, don't you think? Dad's right mom, I'm already 18 inches, but you're still baby in my eyes. They weren't the only one in the restaurant because the rest of the Rookie 9 were here as well as Team Guy and their sensei. Sasuke was present and sat alone at the last table at the corner of the place. It was like a whole celebration party. Choji was screaming to Lee about eating his last piece of barbecue, but instantly lightened up when Ino brought a brand new dish of barbecue for him. I'm happy you have great friends Naruto. So tell me, where is this pink-haired girlfriend of yours your father told me about? You mean Sakura-chan? No, she's just a friend mom. You, been friend-zoned, didn't you? Kushina asked, quote. Suddenly they heard a music. On My Own Les Miserables, anthem of Friendzone Club. They all turned to the source of that music. Oops, sorry, I think my phone is broken, Apollo said innocently and looked away. Sai surprisingly was getting very familiar with the blonde-haired Kunoichi, sitting next to her with a very real smile, and hopefully he was not going to speak out anything that make Ino mad. Sakura was chatting with her sensei while keeping on glancing at Sasuke, wondering that she should come and keep him company. Artemis' eyes twitched seeing it. Why, I'm not surprised, she thought of another love-driven maiden. Naruto, after drinking the bottle Tsunade gave him, stood up from his seat and walked to Sasuke. Kurama would keep his body in check so he don't have worry about alcohol. Sasuke, can I sit here? He asked, sitting down the seat opposite of the former missing nin. How is your arm? He asked after having a nod of approval from black-haired Uchiha. Kushina quickly glanced at his son and saw his bandaged arm and asked him about it. Naruto told her his fights with his best friend, Sasuke, how he convinced him to forget his revenge and go back to the village and his artificial arm. After they heard all of it, Kushina and Minato, even Zeus and Hera, swelled in pride for his son and thought the same, that he will be one day a very good leader. The same as you are, Sasuke replied shortly. Well, Ba-chan said she is making prosthetic hands for us. Naruto nodded. From the Shodime cells, I think, so you don't have to worry about not being able to make hand seals anymore. I don't think I'm going to stay in this village for long, Sasuke said, surprised Naruto. Naruto frowned at that. Hey, don't tell me you're thinking about becoming a missing nin again. He turned his head to Sakura and said with a small smile, there are people who will be hurt if you leave again, you know. What about you, Naruto? What are you going to do now? The both of them turned their head to the Hokage monument, where a face was being carved onto it next to Tsunade's by a lot of worker. It was Kakashi's face, the Rokudime Hokage. Minato smiled as he remembered his student. To think he will be a Hokage, he murmured. I think I'm going to train harder, as well as work harder to become the next Hokage, Naruto said with a determined expression on his face. Improve my strength and everything else. Good for you. Sasuke picked up a cup of sake and held it high. So Dobi, for the Nanaidime Hokage. For the Nanaidime Hokage. Naruto also poured his cup full and touched it with Sasuke's. Naruto's spirits soared high and promised himself to catch a drink with Sasuke when all this is over. Thanks, brother, he added as an afterthought. Meanwhile at Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death. What a weird name for a training ground, the god of wine commented. Yay, wonder what's in there. Monsters maybe, Aphrodite stated. Animals suddenly parted away when they felt an abnormal change in the air. An orb of electricity suddenly appeared from thin air and got bigger and bigger until it was the size of a small house, blue. Lightning cracked from the surface as the energy growing larger and larger, tearing away the large trees around it. Then, 3 young women appeared from within and touched their feet down the forest ground gratefully. At the same time the lightning orb disappeared. Finally they arrive. I am excited to know what makes this other dimension so special, said Ares before he sneered at Naruto, who only shrugs the attention the god of war giving him. The first was an extremely beautiful woman, being tall and well-built, with auburn hair gathered back in a ponytail, cold and bright eyes as silvery yellow as the winter moon. She was wearing white shirts, silver jackets, silvery camo pants and black combat boots. The woman also carrying a magic bow and arrows, with 2 hunting knives strapped to her waist. The one who was wearing a normal clothes at her left was another very beautiful woman, with long black hair and intense gray eyes. She was looking around the forest with interest eyes. You brought your lieutenant with you? Hermes asked. I don't see why not, Artemis replied. The last young woman, who was wearing the same state of clothing as the auburn-haired girl, was a tall, graceful, and gorgeously beautiful young woman with dark brown eyes, a slightly upturned nose, copper-colored skin, and the silver circlet braided into the top of her long dark hair gave her the impression of a Persian princess. This place, amazing, Athena said as she examining the gigantic tree. Such nature, Zoe, the lieutenant of Artemis Hunt said in amazement. This place is amazing. She inhaled deeply. The air was fresh, the best air she ever breathed in. The gods were all awed at the sheer beauty of the place, as if it was a true paradise. Artemis, however, was so amazed that such purity of nature still exists. The goddess of Hunt grinned in satisfaction. I guess the mission isn't bad after all. While the Hunt was staying at her palace at Camp Half-Blood, much to their shock and disappointment as well as disgust, Athena decided that it was best taking one more huntress with her, just in case they couldn't find Naruto where he should be, so Artemis decided to bring Zoe, her closest and best huntress, with them. Artemis was lost for words. She could feel a very powerful force of nature at this place from this forest alone, and it was as powerful as Earth's nature before mortal invent machines that slowly pollute the environment. The Uzumaki family looked at each other in understanding. Hashirama-sama, so, how do we get out of here? Artemis asked. Why can't Father teleport us directly to this Konaha place? This is the Forest of Death. Training Ground 44 of Konaha, Athena informed before walking ahead of them. Snapping her fingers, she brought out a map of Konaha, which her father lended it to her this morning. We go this way to get to the village before heading to Father and Hera's old home, hoping that Naruto Uzumaki is there. I doubt that, Naruto thought, since he never knew his parents left him a house. He lived only on his apartment for years. Maybe this other me did. Now he felt jealous of his counterpart. You okay, Naruto? Oh, of course, Dad. Lady Artemis, the boy we are searching for. Don't ask anything, Zoe. Let's get this over with. The goddesses and huntress walked in silence for the rest of the journey out of the Forest of Death. During the walk, they had an unpleasant encounter with a giant sea centipede, but it was taken down by Artemis and Zoe before it could do anything. I will never forget that creepy evil thing. Naruto, who narrowed his eyes at image of the creature. It's the same centipede who attacked my teammates during Chunin exams. He shuddered as he remembered. They also had met with a lot of other gigantic creatures such as tigers, leeches, and even various kind of birds. Artemis, as a goddess of nature, quickly befriended them. Clearly these creatures were far more friendly than that centipede. When the village came into view, Athena stopped them and spoke up. Be careful when you go into the village. Our world is much more advanced than elemental nations. Artemis and Zoe nodded their head. I know that you two are more than capable of taking care of yourselves, but we must try to stay away from trouble as much as possible, especially unwanted encounter with the shinobi. Some of them can do feats that even the strongest demigods could not hope to compare. Minato was impressed at the goddess of wisdom. She already had planned it before they arrived. Wonder what would happen if she and Shikaku met. Quote. Nah, it's impossible. As soon as they stepped into the village, the group of goddesses and huntress got a lot of attention from the villager because it wasn't every day they got women as beautiful as they are walking in the village. However, as soon as the first male leered at them with lustful eyes. He was sent running because of Artemis' killing intent and murderous eyes, which was far more terrifying than anything he had seen in his life. Soon a lot of males followed his example, and none of them dared to approach the group, as Zoe was twitching her hunting knife in her hands dangerously. Perverts are everywhere, sis. So is idiots. Why does your number don't ever dwindle down? So mean, Apollo said, who sulked in his seat. However, what they didn't know was that Zeus totally forgot to mention them about the downside of entering the village without being detected by the barrier around the village. We got company, Zoe and Artemis said at the same time. Before any of them could take one more step toward the Namikaze mansion, a ninja wearing a bird mask suddenly appeared in front of them, and two more appeared behind them, wearing an attire consisted of black clothing, a gray flak jacket, metal arm guards and gloves, ninja sandals with spike, 3 ninja pouches on their back waist, a signature spiral tattoo on their shoulder and sword on their back. HMPH, they don't look tough to me, Artemis mocked. Agree, I met people more scarier than them, Hermes said casually. I wouldn't underestimate them if I were you, Artemis-sama. Hermes-sama, after all they are among the best ninjas of our village, Minato said, who felt a little annoyed how these DS belittle the capabilities of his people. The 3 immortal beings could instantly see that these ninja were on guard. Their stance hid it rather well, but years of battle and training told them they shouldn't take these shinobi lightly. Who are you and what is your intention? The bird mask Anbu asked. The barrier team didn't inform them about any unauthorized passages, and yet he saw 3 Angers walking casually on the street of Konaha. He gathered 2 nearest Anbu and jumped down to face them, while one already went to inform the Hokage. Whoever they were, entering the village by sneaking in without going through the main gate wasn't something he could brush off easily. We're here with goodwill, Athena spoke up with a perfectly calm tone. I'm glad Pops chose Athena for this, Ms. Scion, or else. Apollo joked but didn't able to finish his sentence as she heard his sister speaks. Or else what, brother? Say it, I dare you. And nothing. I mean, it's good the two of you working very well. You know, sister bonding. Haha. She was the only one out of the 3 could communicate with the people of elemental nations in their language, because Artemis refused to learn after finding out their language was just like Japanese, Apollo's currently most favorite language. She didn't want to learn because she didn't want to understand what her brother usually ranting about in Japanese. UKN. Al, in the end this will come and bite you in the ass, Artie, Apollo said to his sister. Don't care, I'd rather face that than actually listen to you all day long speaking Japanese. My name is Athena N. D. This is Artemis and Zoe Nightshade. Telling the truth was the only option she got for avoiding unwanted fight. We're friends of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, your Yondaime Hokage, and his wife. The Anbu captain's eyes widened behind his mask. He didn't detect any lie in the words of the woman named Athena, but she said they were friends of their Yondaime Hokage and his wife, which was pretty hard to believe. While these women weren't appeared to be kunoichi from any villages, he couldn't risk lowering down his guard, especially when 2 of them looked like a well-trained warrior, carrying bow and arrows as well as the biggest kind of hunting knife he ever saw. Minato nodded in satisfaction and contentment that there is still competent ninja left to defend their mother village despite the huge number of deaths during the last great shinobi war. The samurai couldn't use chakra, but they are more than capable of putting a good fight. Even after the war, the villages had united with each other. There were chances that Akatsuki's remnants were still there. The Hokage will decide if you're speaking the truth or not, the Anbu captain said calmly, making Athena nod her head. Please follow us. Oh right, Athena turned to the 2 eternal maidens. He wants us to come with him, I think, to their Hokage. Fair enough. Artemis nodded her head. She was getting more and more uncomfort able with the ways these males were looking at her, as she wanted nothing more than turn them into some kinds of animal before hunting them down. And please give us your weapons. Athena widened her eyes when the Anbu captain continued. That is not a wise thing to do, Zeus commented. Naruto, confused, asked his father, what do you mean, Zeus-sama? The king of gods felt a little sad when he didn't call him father but answered. Aside from its use as our main weapon, it's also our extension, a part of our identity and what we represent. Does he remember his lightning bolt that's still missing and who knows where? Then he felt his wife grip his hand lightly for comfort. Poseidon felt horrible of how he mocked his brother earlier when thought he was only overreacting. He knows how important he owes Zeus his weapon, and to lose it was really a huge blow. The god of sea promised himself that he will help on finding it. What did he just say? Lady Athena, like her mistress, she wanted to notch an arrow into her bow and shoot the male villagers to the place where the sun don't shine. They wanted us to give them your weapons. This was slowly getting out of control, and the goddess of wisdom could feel it in the air. No way. Artemis shook her head before glaring at the Anbu captain. Her cold shiver eyes made him take a few steps back in nervousness. There is no way I'm going to give my weapons to these Moor. But she stopped when suddenly, her eyes caught a glint of yellow went past her on top of the house at her right. Time seemed to slow down around Artemis as she slowly turned her eyes to her right and widened slightly when she saw the blonde they were searching for jumping from roof and roof with the speed that matched even her best huntresses. Athena looked at the former Hokage inquisitively. Do all shinobis capable of those? Minato was surprised at the sudden question but answered eventually. Yes, Athena-sama, it is one of the standard skills a ninja should learn at their young age. Quote, ... And to think these are only mortals. Wow, Apollo joined in. Who could have thought it was this easy? This mission would end in no time. Artemis, wait, Athena called when suddenly the goddess of the hunt turned around and stomped her foot on the ground, launching herself so high on to the nearest roof that completely shocked the villagers as well as the Anbu. Only fools rush in blindly. It out considering the situation, Ares mocked at the goddess of hunt. Artemis didn't take it well and retorted, that is actually quite funny coming from a retard like you who just gets all personal when you don't agree with someone. But before a fight could escalate, Hestia speaks. Artemis, Ares has a point. Sometimes your anger blinds your judgment and causing others to be in trouble, including innocent people. This is not you, Artemis. If this continues, those around you will also suffer. Artemis lowered her head, felt a little shame but understood what her favorite goddess said. Still, it hurts to know the truth. Faster than a cheetah, Artemis chased after Naruto Uzumaki with the speed that made her nothing but a sliver blue. Moving on top of these roofs were very easy for her, so it didn't take her more than 10 seconds to catch up to the blonde shinobi, who at first was 2 hone fleets away from her. Hey you, stop. Naruto turned his head around and widened his eyes when he saw the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life chasing after with incredible speed. Quote, ... Quote, is that a blush, sis? The god of sun said, teasing Artemis. Do you want me to put a permanent blush on your face? Just as I thought. I'll shut up now. However, Artemis completely forgot that she didn't know how to speak his language, so Artemis' demand wasn't understood by Naruto at all. I wonder whose fault was that. Do you know, Athena? Hermes playfully said. Don't bring me into this, Hermes. Artemis is just beside you. You can ask her directly. I don't think so. I love myself. He spoke up the most logical thing at the moment. Naruto Uzumaki, I order you to stop now. Naruto instantly stopped when he heard his name mentioned in her incomprehensible words. Seeing Naruto stopped running, Artemis also stopped herself. Now the only thing that stopped her from her mission was the gap between the 2-story houses they were standing on. At first glance, Naruto looked just like how he was during the battle against Kagaya, with most of his injuries healed and a few bandages on his face and body. However, because the right sleeves of his shirt was flying freely on the wind, it didn't talk. Artemis longed to realize his right arm was missing. Okay, this is where the conversation gets weird. Hermes chipped in. Who are you? He asked. Now, it was Artemis' change to not be able to understand what he said. But she once heard Apollo ask one of her huntresses name in Japanese before being sent away by said huntress and the rest of the hunt in a barrage of silver arrows before, so she got a basic idea of what he was asking. Artemis, she pointed to herself, rather annoyed that the blonde was making a confused face. Her name is Artemis, or she is saying something in her language. Naruto asked himself. Artemis, oh no. Kurama thought inside of Naruto's mindscape. The Nine-Tails Biju knew perfectly who was this auburn-haired woman from Naruto's mother. I know that sooner or later He will find out and send one of the Olympians here, but her. Artemis didn't like what she heard, asked, why? What's wrong about me? Quote, ... Quote. Fine. Don't tell me, HMPH. Naruto. Kurama decided to SP. Eak up. I sagely advise you not to anger that woman in any way. Huh, why? You know her Kurama? Naruto asked, looking at the gigantic nine-tails fox in his mindscape. Her name is Artemis, right? Yes, her name is Artemis, but for now, you only need to know that she have problem with the opposite gender. Naruto paled instantly. A man-hater, Naruto. Naruto pointed to himself, Naruto Uzumaki, introducing himself with his trademark grin. Even though he was nervous inside, the hunting knife she was carrying looked really big and her bow and arrows seemed to be extremely dangerous. Artemis only smirked, liking how she was striking fear to the boy. I know who you are, she said sarcastically. Now don't make me come over there and force you back to your mother, come. Over here, boy, she pointed to him before pointing the spot next to her. Hoping that he would understand what she wanted. Sorry, but I don't understand what you're saying. He shook his head, thinking, maybe Ba-chan will know. She traveled a lot, did she? Oh, the confusions. Dionysus rolled his eyes for stupidity of the situation. It looks funny though. Naruto pushed Chakra to his feet and jumped over the opposite roof, landing gratefully in front of Artemis. Come on, let's go to Ba-chan. She will. He took her wrist, realizing that talking with her would be no use because just like him, she couldn't understand what he said. However, Naruto didn't realize he just made a grave mistake. Apollo shook his. He shouldn't have done that, poor kid. Artemis widened her eyes before snapping her hand out of Naruto's grip, at the same time pulling her hunting knife out faster than Naruto could even see her hand move, heading toward his throat. Without his right hand, Naruto had to move his body back to avoid the dangerous knife. Naruto didn't bring any weapons with him today, so blocking that sharp knife would be out of question. Shit, he cried. What the hell are you doing? I told you, Naruto. She has problem with male, Kurama groaned. You didn't make the situation any better for me. Without one of his hand and the smallest piece of weapon with him, Naruto had no choice but. How dare you touch me? Artemis roared. This male just touched her. How dare he? She was the proud goddess of the moon and hunt. How could a boy, a son of Zeus and Hera no less, just come and touch her casually like that? It's only a touch. She don't need to be angry about it, Naruto said and asked Artemis, are you really like this? If you keep this up you wouldn't find a boyfriend. Quote. Apollo snapped his head at Naruto with a surprised look on his handsome face. Good luck, kid. Then suddenly a pair of knives was aimed at Naruto, the young. Uzumaki was too surprised and failed to react quickly. But just when the knives was about to hit his head, a barrier stopped it. Just what do you think you're going to do to my son? Kushina said coldly at the goddess of hunt, who was paling from the murderous intent the red-haired mother was releasing. That's enough, Kushina, Minato said, calming his wife. It proved. Successful as the chakra chains, so as the menacing feeling they all felt were gone. However, what came next was worst. Minato looked at the gods and bowed, but his chakra was flaring wildly and his face was emotionless. Forgive my wife for how she reacted, but do understand she only did that to protect our son, he said and smiled slightly as the chakra was gone. Zeus looked at his counterpart and impressed on how Minato able to conjure a sudden fear to most of the gods. We saw what happened and we completely understand your wife's action. I promise to you it won't happen again. Sending sharp look at his daughter, Artemis flinched at this. Minato nodded and went back beside Kushina. Artemis pulled out her other hunting knife and attacked him with both of her weapons. Hera didn't ask her to bring him back in one piece and unharmed. This would be his first warning for trying to touch her, to make sure that he would never dare to cross her again in the future whenever they meet at Olympus. However, she couldn't believe her eyes when Naruto suddenly raised his hand and broke one of her hunting knife before grabbing the last knife with his bare hand. Calm down, he said with a calm tone. Looking up, Artemis saw his eyes had changed to yellow toad-like eyes with orange pigmentation around his eyes. But what shocked her was the feeling of nature coming from him. It was like he had become one with nature. Such force of energy could only be felt from natural spirits such as nymphs or naiads, yet this young man in front of her was emitting the same kind, if not even more power, natural energy than them. Who was this boy? Not somebody you want to mess with, Naruto muttered silently as he don't want to repeat the incident earlier. Artemis, right? He asked, Hand was still gripping her knife. Hello. Artemis blinked once, then twice before realizing that she had spaced out the whole minute. Raising her legs, she kicked his gut hard, sending Naruto flying with unimaginable force. Putting her hunting knife back to the sheath, Artemis took a bow and notched 3 arrows and just stopped for a millisecond to aim before shooting them with the speed faster than any ninja could throw their kunai or shuriken. Or should she say in her world's language, faster than a machine gun. Oh shit, Naruto cried out BEF. Or using his leg to catch one of the arrow heading to his crotch, using his hand to catch another aim for his heart and his teeth to catch the last one aimed for his head. This woman was incredibly skilled with bow and arrows. To think that she could aim perfectly at all the weak points of his body while he was flying with neck-breaking speed. Who am I kidding, she's a god, Naruto in a dull tone. Naruto quickly balanced himself on a roof and dashed his feet on the ground to look at Artemis, who was 15 yards away from him, but seeing her speed and the way she shot those arrows, he doubted this distance could keep him safe. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, turned around and saw Athena came running at her with aegis in hand. What are you thinking? The black-haired goddess asked with a slight frustration in her tone. Now they are chasing after us. You see that boy over there? Artemis pointed her hand to Naruto. It's our little half-brother. Athena nodded her head. He was Naruto Uzumaki indeed. Care to explain? He was over there with your arrows. Without the need to look, Athena raised her shield and blocked the incoming kunais and shurikens. Nice block there, Athena, Apollo said. Do you need to constantly voice your opinion? Of course. He leaned close to Athena. This will also ease the tension, he whispered and nodded at her. Fine. Do what you want, it's not like I can stop you, thanks. Anbus were chasing after them and Zoe was just right a few houses behind them, shooting arrows at the masked shinobi, effectively slowing them down, but with the numbers behind her. The lieutenant of Artemis doubted that she has enough arrows to shoot. Athena told her to not kill them, so she only shot her arrows at the non-fatal points on the body, but because her opponents were the most skilled shinobi, they easily blocked the arrows with their swords and kunai. It needs more than that to take down an elite shinobi, Kushina stated. They are after Naruto, the captain shouted. Quick, get them. 3 women just casually walked into their village without any permission and now was after their hero. Those women, while using weapons unlike any shinobi and hadn't used any ninjutsu yet, was skilled. Very skilled and knew what they were doing. Want to hurt Naruto in their village. Not on his watch, mistress, Zoe called when she stopped in front of Artemis. The shinobi was Kami near and she only had 10 arrows left. This will keep them away, Artemis said and called for her godly power. That's cheating. No Ares. It's called using your head. Artemis cleared up to Ares. The Anbu stopped on their track when suddenly they heard the sound of 1,000 insects coming at their direction. Looking up, all Anbu widened their eyes in shock when a black cloud of 1,000 or even millions insects were coming straight at them from the forest outside of Konaha. Of all the things you can call, it had to be insects. Hermes said, what's wrong about that? You do realize Athena's best friend happens to be a spider. I am surprised I didn't see any of those 8-legged freaks. Athena thought about it, shuddered and scowled at his half-sister. Sorry. The insects gathered around them, flying around the Anbu, making them cried out in shock. The hell? Naruto dropped his mouth in shock. She is an Aburame or something. The only ones Naruto knew who could control insects was Shino and his family. But control that kind of numbers was out of question. His eyes then returned to the auburn-haired woman, now accompanied by 2 more, both of whom was as beautiful as the girl who attacked him. And the head on the bronze shield that black-haired woman was holding was enough to freak him out. Just perfect. Naruto turned around, dropping all the arrows to the ground and started to run. I already got enough psychos. After me. I really don't need 3 more. The 2 goddesses looked sharply at Naruto. Psychos. Other me. You can't run away from them, Naruto, Kurama said. One of them have the skills to track you down even you were halfway around the world. Running away from is pointless. Who said I'm going to run away? A smirk appeared on his face as Naruto he headed toward the nearest training ground. Minato facepalm at this. You really are your mother's son, Naruto. And what's that supposed to mean, Minato-kun? Kushina said, smiling too sweetly that isn't already considered natural. Nothing, hun, nothing. You want to fight them, are you, Naruto? Kurama chuckled when he realized Naruto's intention of heading to a wide area. Just let you know that two of them haven't you enough power to level the entire village in a minute or so. You're kidding, right? Naruto laughed forcefully. Naruto, wait, he heard one of them shouted, but this time he could perfectly understand her. Stop, we need to talk. No, wait, he shouted back, pointing at Artemis. That woman is trying to kill me. There is no way I'm going to let her slice me in half, he shouted in a dramatic way. Yeah, I can clearly see who his father is, Athena sighed. His shouting face was ridiculous. He said he's not going to stop because you want to slice him in half. Kushina and Hera giggled at Athena's observation, couldn't help but agree. Their husbands like to sensationalize every possible situation they deemed fit to go dramatic. Told him that he don't stop now, I will make him suffer more than just being sliced in half. Artemis gritted her teeth and pulled out another arrows, ready to put it through the blonde head. Calm down, Artemis, we're not here to kill him. Athena shook her head. What did he do to anger you anyway? He touched me. Zoe's eyes turned cold and she saw red when she heard her mistress' words. Kushina's eyes twitched at that and looked sharply at Artemis. If any other than us heard it, they could have mistaken your words for something more worse. The way you said it was as if you were molested, and to tell you my son is not like that, she said sourly. Hera also glanced at He goddess of moon with a scowl on her face. Mom, that's enough. How dared he? Before Naruto could get to the training ground, an arrow flew past him, just missing his head for a few millimeters. Turning his head around to look, he saw the tiara-wearing girl suddenly launched herself forward even faster than the other two. Oh shit, her hunting knives were out and glinted dangerously in her NDS. Guessed I have no choice then. Naruto turned his eyes to the front and was about to call for Kurama's power when suddenly Naruto grinned. He knew his other self already won when he called for his partner. Then it struck him. His friend hasn't contacted since he got here. What's wrong, Kurama? Whispered to himself. Naruto, we know your parent. Athena shouted. Naruto immediately stopped with his eyes widened. Normally, it wasn't that uncommon for people to know about his parent, who were very famous. But for some reason, he got a feeling that when these women said they knew his parent, he had a totally different ideas than the other. You were dead. Naruto turned around just in time to use his hand to block the hunting knife, but since he was in sage mode, the knife shattered underneath his rock-hard skin, making Zoe widen her eyes in shock. That's Senin mode for you, Naruto said and smirked at Artemis. Not so tough, huh? He added. However, it took huge amount of effort for Artemis to not throw knives at the young Uzumaki. She didn't like how her best hunter had been easily defeated by mortal and a boy no less. You know my parent. What do you mean when you said you know my parent? He asked, pushing Zoe back with his strength, making a safe distance between her and him. Athena got down next to the huntress of Artemis and put her shield away, looking at Naruto with her stormy gray eyes. With just the first look she could tell a lot about this boy. Clearly he was unlike any of his full-blood brothers, especially a warmonger like Ares. In other words, a normal brother, right, Artemis? Aphrodite smirked. You say something, Seafoam. Whatever, prissy. But she was wondering why one of his arms was missing. Naruto. The Anbu appeared, surrounding around the area and ready for the worst situation. Zoe instantly returned to her full battle mode, already having an arrow ready with her, the string of her bow pulling back. It's all right, guys. Naruto held up his hand and said to reassure the Anbu captain and his team before turning back to Athena. Now, answer my question. Naruto, what do you know about your parent? Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. They sacrificed their life to protect me, he said shortly, but enough to tell these women about his parent. Naruto sadly watched it when he felt an arms enveloped him and saw his parent smiling at him. Thanks, Mom. Dad. The truth is, Naruto, your parent, they are still alive, Athena declared, shocking the entire area, and they sent us here to bring you back to them. End of chapter 2. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.